May 7th, 1943. North Atlantic, 52 in 31W. Commander Frederick John Walker paces the bridge of HMS Starling as another convoy burns on the horizon. 15 merchant ships carrying 90,000 tons of food, fuel, and ammunition for Britain lie beneath the waves. 347 men are dead. The U-boat struck 4 hours ago and vanished like ghosts into the black water. Walker raises his binoculars. Oil slick stretch for miles. A single lifeboat drifts past, empty except for a child's shoe frozen to the thwart. This is the 43rd convoy attacked this month. At this rate, Britain will starve before Christmas. The Royal Navy's response sits rusting at the dock. 12 brand-new frigates designed specifically to hunt submarines languish unused. The Admiralty calls them Escort Group B7 in official documents. The sailors have a different name. Walker's rust buckets. Too slow, too lightly armed, too experimental. Senior officers warned that deploying them would be throwing good men after bad ships. Walker's own vessel, Starling, represents everything wrong with British desperation. A Black Swan-class sloop reclassified as a frigate. She displaces just 350 tons, carries obsolete depth charges that detonate at fixed depths, and mounts a primitive sonar system the crew mockingly calls the fortune teller because it lies as often as it tells the truth. Her maximum speed of 19.5 knots means any surfaced U-boat can outrun her in calm seas. What Walker doesn't know as he stares at the burning convoy is that Grand Admiral Karl Donitz has just authorized brutal tactic. Wolfpack Grupp Fink, 23 U-boats operating in coordinated attack formations. Intelligence estimates Britain has 6 weeks of food reserves remaining. The convoys must get through or the war ends in surrender. What Walker also doesn't know is that his Rust Bucket frigate will become the most lethal submarine hunter in naval history. That his unorthodox tactics will save an estimated 100,000 Allied lives. And that German U-boat crews will come to fear a single name whispered in terror through the North Atlantic: Johnny Walker. The clock is ticking. The U-boats are winning, and everything about to change depends on a dismissed naval commander and his rejected ships. The Atlantic Death Trap. Between September 1939 and April 1943, German U-boats sink 2,232 Allied merchant ships, totaling 11.3 million tons. The mathematics are brutal and simple. Britain imports 68 million tons of material annually to survive. U-boats are destroying it faster than American shipyards can replace it. First Sea Lord Admiral Sir Dudley Pound calculates Britain will reach starvation threshold by autumn 1943. The Royal Navy's anti-submarine warfare doctrine hasn't fundamentally changed since 1918. Convoys sail in predictable patterns. Escort destroyers drop depth charges set to explode at 150 or 300 feet, predetermined depths that give U-boat captains ample warning to dive deeper or surface and run. Astic sonar, the Navy's primary detection system, loses contact with submarines at ranges under 200 yards, creating a dead zone where U-boats escape during the final attack run. The success rate for depth charge attacks hovers at 4%. The Admiralty tries everything. They deploy more destroyers, but U-boats adapt by attacking on the surface at night when sonar is useless. They add aircraft patrols, but the mid-Atlantic gap beyond aircraft range becomes a killing field where 30 U-boats operate simultaneously. They install improved Astic sets, but German captains learn to dive beneath thermal layers that reflect sonar pulses harmlessly away. Expert consensus at the Admiralty crystallizes around a single conclusion. Escort vessels cannot hunt submarines effectively. The destroyers are too valuable for offensive operations. The corvettes are too slow and poorly armed. The few specialized submarine hunters in service achieve kills through luck, not skill. Admiral Sir Max Horton, Commander-in-Chief Western Approaches, summarizes the prevailing wisdom in a March 1943 memo. Escorts should protect convoys. Only destroyers with speed advantage can hunt U-boats. Purpose-built submarine hunters are a waste of resources. The stakes escalate beyond simple arithmetic. In March 1943 alone, U-boats sink 108 ships, totaling 627,000 tons, the worst month of the entire war. At the Casablanca Conference in January, Churchill and Roosevelt agreed that defeating the U-boats takes priority over all other operations. The planned invasion of France, the bomber offensive against Germany, the entire strategic direction of the war depends on merchant ships reaching Britain safely. The failure isn't just tactical, it's systematic. Convoy escorts operate independently, each captain employing his own methods. There's no standardized doctrine for coordinated attacks, no training program for escort groups to practice together, no analysis of successful engagements to identify best practices. When a U-boat attacks, escorts respond chaotically, often dropping depth charges that threaten friendly ships as much as enemy submarines. The human cost multiplies beyond the merchant sailors drowning in burning oil. Escort crews suffer psychological breakdown rates 3 times higher than frontline infantry. They watch ships explode night after night, pull frozen corpses from the water, and face the helpless knowledge that their weapons barely work. Morale on escort vessels plummets. Transfers to convoy duty become punishment assignments. By April 1943, the Admiralty faces an institutional crisis. They have ships, sailors, and sonar, but no solution. The U-boats are winning through superior tactics, better training, and coordinated wolf-pack attacks that overwhelm individual escorts. Britain needs a radical change in anti-submarine warfare, but every conventional approach has failed. What they need is someone willing to throw out the rule book entirely. Someone the establishment has already dismissed as too unconventional, too aggressive, too willing to risk his ships in offensive operations. Someone like Commander Frederick John Walker, currently rusting away in Liverpool with his squadron of rejected frigates. Commander Frederick John Walker, the Navy's unwanted expert. Frederick John Walker lacks every credential the Royal Navy values for high command. At age 46, he's too old for frontline destroyer duty. He holds no staff college certificates, no connections to the Admiralty's inner circle, no aristocratic pedigree. His career has been competent but undistinguished. Gunnery officer, navigation instructor, staff positions ashore. When war began in September 1939, Walker commanded a sloop on convoy escort duty, the naval equivalent of driving a milk truck. What Walker possesses instead is obsession. For 4 years, he has studied every U-boat attack, every failed depth charge pattern, every moment of sonar contact. He fills notebooks with diagrams, calculations, and tactical sketches that other officers dismiss as theoretical nonsense. At port briefings, when commanders discuss defensive positions around convoys, Walker argues for offensive search and destroy operations that hunt relentlessly until they're dead. Senior officers find his intensity unsettling. They transfer him repeatedly, hoping distance will cure his fixation. Walker's personal life mirrors his professional isolation. His wife, Eileen, died in 1940. His 4 sons served scattered across the war. He lives alone in a Liverpool boarding house, spending evenings analyzing U-boat patrol patterns on homemade charts. Fellow officers consider him a tragic figure. Brilliant perhaps, but too narrowly focused, too willing to sacrifice ships for kills, too dangerous to trust with valuable destroyers. The moment of insight arrives on April 30th, 1943. Walker sits in the Western Approaches Tactical Unit, a basement training facility in Liverpool, where escort commanders practice anti-submarine attacks on a giant floor map. The instructor, a veteran destroyer captain, demonstrates the standard doctrine. Maintain position around the convoy. Drop depth charges at preset depths when sonar contact occurs. Return to escort stations quickly. Walker raises his hand. What if we don't return to the convoy? The room goes silent. The instructor frowns. Then the convoy loses protection. But the U-boat dies, Walker says quietly. He stands and walks to the map. Look at the pattern. We get sonar contact, drop a single pattern of depth charges, then break off because we're afraid of leaving the convoy exposed. The U-boat surfaces after we leave, reports our position, and calls in the wolf pack. We're playing defense, letting them choose when and where to attack. He traces a circle on the map. What if a support group of frigates not assigned to any specific convoy patrols independently? When a U-boat attacks, the convoy escorts hold position while we hunt. We stay on target for hours, days, if necessary. We hunt them the way they hunt us. The instructor shakes his head. That is tactically irresponsible. Convoys need all available escorts. Walker's voice hardens. Convoys need dead U-boats. Everything else is just watching ships sink. 3 days later, the Admiralty assigns Walker command of 2nd Escort Group, 6 frigates designated for experimental anti-submarine operations. They give him Starling and 5 sister ships. They give him no expectations of success. Liverpool docks. May 15th, 1943. Walker transforms Starling into a floating laboratory. The crew watches in confusion as their commander strips away standard equipment and installs unauthorized modifications. He removes ammunition lockers to make room for triple the normal depth charge supply, 150 charges instead of the standard 50. He requisitions experimental Hedgehog forward-throwing mortars that fire 24 contact fuse projectiles in an oval pattern ahead of the ship, eliminating the sonar dead zone. The Admiralty has an approved Hedgehog for general use. Walker doesn't care. The depth charges themselves get Walker's obsessive attention. Standard Royal Navy procedure sets charges to explode at 150 or 300 feet. Walker studies reports showing U-boats routinely diving below 400 feet to escape. He personally adjusts the hydrostatic pistols on every depth charge to detonate at 500 and 650 feet. The dockyard ordnance officer warns this violates safety regulations. Walker signs the modification orders anyway, but Walker's most radical innovation is tactical, not technical. He gathers his 6 frigate captains in Starling's wardroom and unveils what he calls Operation Creeping Attack. Instead of individual ships dropping random depth charge patterns, Walker's group will hunt as a coordinated pack. One frigate, designated the directing ship, maintains sonar contact while slowly creeping forward at 5 knots. The attacking ships position themselves precisely using Walker's hand-drawn diagrams, then drop coordinated patterns that create an inescapable cube of explosions, bracketing the submarine's position. The captains study the diagrams in silence. Captain Donald McIntyre of HMS Hesperus finally speaks. You're asking us to maintain sonar contact while other ships drop charges nearby. The explosion pressure could crack our sonar domes. The turbulence will blind us. Correct. Walker says the directing ship stays at extreme range, 600 yards minimum. The attacking ships approach from calculated bearings based on the target's last known course. We don't need continuous contact during the attack. We need mathematics and coordination. Lieutenant Commander Godfrey Brewer, captain of HMS Woodpecker, points at the charge depth settings. 500 feet, sir. If a charge misfires at that depth setting and we're above it when it finally detonates, then we die. Walker interrupts. The U-boat crews dive to 600 feet, knowing we can't reach them. We can now. They just don't know it yet. The first test occurs May 25th, 1943, off the coast of Iceland. Walker's group tracks a suspected sonar contact for 6 hours, practicing the creeping attack without dropping charges. The frigates move into position with stopwatch precision, coordinating by signal lamp to maintain radio silence. The target, actually a practice submarine from the Royal Navy's training squadron, reports after the exercise that it died 14 times during the 6-hour hunt. The practice submarine captain radios a message to Walker. That is the most illegal, dangerous, brilliant submarine killing machine I have ever seen. Don't let them stop you. Walker smiles. The U-boats won't know what hit them. Admiral Sir Max Horton's office. Western approaches command. Liverpool, May 28, 1943. Commander Walker stands at attention before the assembled senior staff. His unauthorized modifications to 2nd Escort Group's tactics have reached Admiral Horton's attention, and not through official channels. Commander Richard Dick Rake, Horton's chief of staff and a decorated destroyer captain, hold a copy of Walker's tactical manual, pages marked with angry red ink. "This is madness," Rake begins, his voice tight. "You've stripped your frigates of anti-aircraft ammunition to carry more depth charges. You've installed experimental weapons without proper testing. You've modified depth charge settings beyond rated specifications. And now you're proposing to take your entire group away from convoy protection to hunt U-boats independently." He throws the manual onto Horton's desk. "This violates every principle of convoy escort doctrine." Walker doesn't flinch. "Convoy escort doctrine is failing, sir. We've lost over 2,000 ships following it." Captain Stevenson, the Western Approach's tactical training officer, leans forward. "Because we don't have enough escorts, Commander. Your solution is to take 6 frigates away from convoys that desperately need them and go hunting submarines in the open ocean. What happens to the convoys you're supposed to protect? They get protected by the escorts that remain," Walker says evenly, "while my group eliminates the U-boats attacking them." The room erupts. 3 captains speak at once, voices rising. Rake pounds the desk. "You don't eliminate U-boats by chasing them for days. You screen convoys and drive them away. Your obsession with kill ratios will get merchant sailors killed. They're already dying." Walker's voice cuts through the noise. The room goes silent. "We're losing this war, gentlemen. Not slowly, not theoretically, actually losing." In April, U-boats sank 56 ships. In March, 108 ships. At this rate, Britain surrenders by Christmas because we'll have nothing left to eat. He steps forward, pointing at the map on Horton's wall, showing U-boat positions. "Look at this. Wolfpack Fink has 23 boats operating between Greenland and Iceland. Wolfpack Donau has 18 boats west of Ireland. They're not scattered raiders anymore. They're coordinated attack groups using radio communication and concentrated tactics. Our response: send individual escorts to drop a few depth charges and run back to the convoy." Commander Anthony Pugsley, a staff operations officer, shakes his head. "Your creeping attack requires ships to operate within explosion range of each other. One mistake, one depth charge detonating early, and you'll sink your own frigate. Then we'll train until mistakes are impossible," Walker says. "My crews practice the approach pattern 6 hours every day. We use signal lamps to coordinate to the second. We've calculated exact bearing and distance for every attack scenario. And if your sonar fails during an attack," Rake demands, "if you lose contact in the dead zone, we don't need sonar during the attack phase. The directing ship establishes the U-boat's course and speed. The attacking ship's position mathematically and drop coordinated patterns. The submarine can't maneuver fast enough underwater to escape the kill box." Rake turns to Admiral Horton, who has sat silently throughout the confrontation. "Sir, I strongly recommend we reassign Commander Walker to staff duties and return 2nd Escort Group to standard convoy protection protocols. This experimental hunting group concept is too risky." Horton studies the map, then Walker's tactical manual, then Walker himself. Born in 1883, Horton commanded submarines in World War I and understands undersea warfare intuitively. He's also desperately aware that conventional tactics are failing catastrophically. "How many U-boats can you kill, Commander?" Horton asks quietly. Walker meets his gaze. "All of them, sir. Eventually. Before you click away, you're watching military history you won't find anywhere else." Hit subscribe. We're documenting the innovations that changed warfare forever. New videos every Tuesday and Friday. Now back to the hunt. Horton makes his decision. "You have 1 combat patrol, Commander Walker. 72 hours. If your tactics work, we'll expand the hunting group concept. If they don't," he doesn't finish the sentence. "Dismissed. Except you, Commander. Sit." When the room clears, Horton says, "I'm betting the war on you, Johnny. Don't make me wrong." June 1st, 1943, North Atlantic, 250 miles west of Ireland. Starling leads 2nd Escort Group into the operational area where convoy HX-239 was attacked 2 days earlier. 6 frigates steam in a wide line of breast formation, their astic sets pinging into the darkness below. Walker has searched for 36 hours without contact. Fuel runs low. The Admiralty signal ordering return to port will arrive soon. At 0247 hours, June 3rd, Wild Goose's sonar operator detects a submerged contact at 8,800 yards, bearing 045 degree. The operator's voice crackles over the radio. Submarine contact classified certain. Moving left to right. Speed estimated 4 knots. Walker's response is immediate. Creeping attack pattern Alpha 3. Wild Goose directing. Woodpecker and kite attack from bearing 090 and 270. Execute on my mark. The frigates move into position with practiced precision. Wild Goose reduces speed to 5 knots. Her sonar tracking the submarine while staying 600 yards distant. Woodpecker and kite approach from flanking angles, their crews silent at action stations. No depth charges are dropped randomly. No warning is given. At exactly 0312 hours, Walker gives the signal. Woodpecker and kite roll 20 depth charges each from their rails. Charges preset to detonate at 500 and 650 feet. The patterns bracket a cube of ocean 200 yards on each side. The charges detonate in sequence, creating a sustained pressure wave that collapses the submarine's hull like a crushed beer can. At 0318 hours, oil and debris boil to the surface. Bodies wearing German Navy uniforms float in the spreading slick. Walker circles the area, confirming the kill. Post-war records identify the victim as U-202, commanded by Captain Lieutenant Gunther Poser. With all 48 crew lost, the hunt has just begun. Over the next 64 hours, Walker's group tracks 3 more U-boats using captured German naval codes to predict patrol positions. On June 6th, they sink U-418 off the Azores. On June 9th, U-623 dies southwest of Iceland. Each attack follows Walker's choreographed pattern. Slow approach, precise positioning, coordinated depth charge drops that give submarines no chance to escape. The kill rate is 100%. Every contact results in a confirmed sinking. The breakthrough comes June 14th, 1943 during the Battle of Convoy ONS-10. Wolfpack, Trutz, positions 18 U-boats to ambush the convoy carrying 42 merchant ships. The convoy commodore sends the standard distress signal. Walker's group, 200 m away, steams toward the contact at maximum speed. They arrive as U-202, a different boat than Poser's, lines up its torpedo shot on the convoy flagship. Lieutenant Peter Gretton, commanding the convoy's regular escort group, watches in amazement as Walker's 6 frigates crash through the escort screen and charge directly at the surfaced U-boat. The German lookouts spot Starling too late. They crash dive, but Walker has already calculated the intercept point. The creeping attack lasts 47 minutes. Starling maintains sonar contact while men and his Woodpecker execute 3 coordinated depth charge runs. At 400-foot depth, U-202's hull ruptures. At 500 feet, the main ballast tanks implode. At 600 feet, the submarine breaks apart. 17 survivors reach the surface. Walker's crew pulls them aboard Starling. The senior survivor, Oberleutnant Zur C. Hans Joachim Schwenke, stares at Walker in shock. You dropped charges from 2 ships at once, at depths we thought safe. How did you know our position so precisely? Walker smiles coldly. Mathematics, Lieutenant. Mathematics and patience. But Walker isn't finished. Over the next 5 days, 2nd Escort Group hunts the remaining Trutz Wolfpack boats relentlessly. They sink U-19 on June 16th, U-449 on June 18th, U-564 on June 19th, and U-388 on June 20th. The attacks are clinical, efficient, and terrifying. German radio intercepts record frantic messages from surviving U-boats. New British Hunter Group. Multiple attackers, deep charges impossible to evade. Requesting permission to withdraw. Gross Admiral Donitz, monitoring the carnage from U-boat headquarters in Berlin, orders Wolfpack Trutz to disperse and withdraw to safer patrol areas. It's the first time German U-boats have been driven from their hunting grounds by surface ships. The final statistics from Walker's first combat patrol are devastating for the Germans. Second Escort Group operated for 21 days, consumed 872 depth charges, and sank 8 U-boats. U-202, U-418, U-449, U-564, U-388, and U-591. The groups suffered 0 casualties, 0 ships damaged, 0 mechanical failures requiring return to port. Before the patrol, the average kill rate for depth charge attacks was 4%. Walker's rate, 100%. Every sonar contact resulted in a confirmed kill. The mathematical elegance of the creeping attack, the coordination between ships, the deep-set charges, all combined to create a submarine killing system more effective than anything the Royal Navy had deployed before. Intelligence reports show the impact rippling through the U-boat fleet. Morale plummets. Crews request transfers to other duties. Patrol reports include desperate notations. British hunter groups operating with new tactics. Unable to escape depth charge attacks. Recommend avoiding contact. On June 22nd, Walker returns to Liverpool. Admiral Horton personally greets him at the dock, violating protocol to shake his hand before the assembled crew. "Johnny, you've shown us how to win this war. The Admiralty is forming 6 more support groups based on your tactics. You'll train them all." Walker looks exhausted, age beyond his 46 years. "We need 50 groups, sir, not 6. The U-boats are still out there." "Then we'll build 50 groups," Horton promises. If this story amazes you, imagine what else you're missing. Subscribe now. We've got 60 more untold stories of ordinary people who change history. Click that subscribe button. Now, the aftermath. Over the next 18 months, Walker and 2nd Escort Group will sink 20 total U-boats, more than any other Allied anti-submarine unit in the entire war. The war after Walker. The impact of Frederick John Walker's tactics spread through the Royal Navy like wildfire through dry timber. By August 1943, 7 support groups operate independently in the North Atlantic, all trained in Walker's creeping attack methods. By December, 14 groups. By June 1944, 23 groups hunt using coordinated depth charge patterns, deep-set charges, and relentless pursuit that gives submarines no sanctuary. The numbers tell the story of transformation. In May 1943, before Walker's first patrol, U-boats sank 50 Allied ships. In July 1943, they sank 37. By September 1943, only 9. The German U-boat fleet, which peaked at 212 operational boats in April 1943, suffers catastrophic losses. Between June 1943 and May 1945, the Kriegsmarine loses 630 U-boats to Allied action. Support groups trained in Walker's tactics account for 247 of those kills. German naval archives captured after the war reveal the psychological devastation Walker inflicted. A July 1943 intelligence report to Grody Dinit states, British hunter groups now employ coordinated deep attacks impossible to survive. Recommends suspending North Atlantic operations until countermeasures developed. The countermeasures never materialize. U-boats begin avoiding areas where support groups operate, ceding control of the convoy routes. The human cost and salvation bears remembering. Walker's tactics and the support groups they spawned are estimated to have prevented the loss of 300 to 400 additional merchant ships, saving between 15,000 and 20,000 merchant sailor lives and protecting 2.5 million tons of desperately needed supplies. At a reunion in 1952, Merchant Navy Captain Samuel Ellsworth approached Walker with tears streaming down his face. "My ship was in convoy SC-143. Your group killed the U-boat stalking us 3 hours before it would have struck. 37 men on my ship. Because of you, we all came home." Walker never sought fame. He refused interviews, declined book deals, and avoided public ceremonies. He continued hunting U-boats until July 9, 1944, when at age 48, physical and mental exhaustion finally overtook him. He died of a cerebral thrombosis aboard HMS Starling in Liverpool Harbor, having spent 216 consecutive days at sea during his final year. The Royal Navy gave him a full military funeral. 800 sailors lined the route. Winston Churchill sent a personal message. Britain owes Johnny Walker a debt we can never repay. The frigates Walker called rust buckets proved to be the most effective submarine hunters of the war. HMS Starling herself sank 14 U-boats before decommissioning in 1946. She's preserved today at the Imperial War Museum in London, her depth charge racks still bearing Walker's hand-painted firing sequences. Modern anti-submarine warfare still employs Walker's fundamental principles: coordinated multi-ship attacks, deep weapon settings, and relentless pursuit that denies submarine sanctuary. NATO naval doctrine credits him as the father of modern submarine hunting tactics. Walker died as he lived, obsessed, isolated, and absolutely right. The Navy that dismissed his rust buckets survived the war because one stubborn commander refused to accept that losing was inevitable. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from superior weapons, but from superior thinking. And sometimes what looks like a rust bucket is actually exactly what saves the world.